What's good, everybody? It's Obley here. Today I want to walk through the most exciting video I might have ever made, and it is the Frost rework. So a lot of our core abilities have been changed. I spent a little bit of time on the PTR, I say a little bit, the whole of yesterday and a bit this morning, just testing things out to give you a proper overview of what the changes mean and what my predictions will be. But let's get into it now. Okay, so we'll start by reading some of the changes on the PTR notes, and then we'll just go into the actual game and look at how this looks. But right now, Might of the Frozen Wastes, it just also bolsters Frost Scythe, because I think Blizzard are leaning more towards Frost Scythe being your AoE spender, not Cleaving Strikes to Obliterate. So that is gone. You no longer need to stand in Death and Decay. You actually just don't even need to press Death and Decay at all as a Frost DK. Your AoE comes from everything else, which is good. That's good. That is what a lot of people wanted. Okay, so now we have Rime. So this is a massive change. Rime now triggers off of Frost Strike and Glacial Advance. So anything that also interacts with Frost Strike and Glacial Advance will also trigger Rimes. But no longer does it actually have anything to do with Obliterate. Runic Empowerment has been nerfed, but there has been some changes in the talent tree to give you better chances of triggering Runic Empowerment. So this isn't that bad. It's actually fine. You're not going to notice this. Frostworm's Fury has now been just like the absolute zero talent's been baked into the actual Frostworm's Fury. So if you do pick that talent, it's automatically going to be 1.5 minute cooldown and stun everything. So that's good. Now Arctic Assault has actually been moved in the tree. So it's now a little bit higher up here. And instead of doing Glacial Advance at 80% effectiveness, it does one at 45. So just a small nerf to that. Also Glacial Advance, just off the bat, it comes in our kit. As Frost, you actually just learn it straight away at level 10. You don't actually have to spec it or anything like that. This is kind of follows in the same way that Obliterate and Frost Scythe are counterparts to each other in AoE, where Frost Strike and Glacial Advance will be counterparts to each other in AoE and single target. A few other talents have also had their positions changed, like Bite and Cold is in a different place now. But one of the biggest changes that we need to speak about is Breath of Sindragosa. So now the spell is completely different. It still drains runic power when you press it. However, it's an empower spell. And each empower level will cap off the maximum amount of time that Breath can actually run for. So I'll show you that now. Get a little bit of runic power. And so when you press Breath, now you can charge it to a certain level. It'll go. You still have to keep it. If you do go under the runic power, so it's 16 runic power. If you do go under 16 runic power, it will just drop straight away. But now it also refunds the cooldown depending on the level as well. So I think this is good. I think it's nice to change this spell. I definitely thought it was going to be more of the consume runic power and then it goes for a certain amount of time up front. I personally would think that's better. But you can do this up to 3 stages. So the first stage does more damage initially, but only lasts for 8 seconds. Refunds 75 seconds of the cooldown. If you do it on level 1, it always lines up with Pillar and Reaper and things like that. So right now, it kind of feels like you should just be doing level 1. It also grants a charge of Empower Rune Weapon, which we'll go over later, and gives you 2 runes. So if you can churn more of those out, I feel like that's a better DPS increase, and rotationally as well, especially the feely craft of it at the moment. It just feels so much better to do the level 1 than it is to do the level 3, because if you don't actually live up to the 30 seconds that you've given yourself, that's just it. You now just have to wait there for 2 more minutes, or 2 minutes entirely, to get it back again. Yeah, at the moment, it's a tricky one. I actually really don't like the way that it feels, but that's just my personal opinion. Other people do like it. Okay, so that's basically Breath in a nutshell. Still trying to figure out the tuning of what the best thing to do is, but we'll move on from that, because I'm sure they might change it. But Chill Streak, just completely gone. No one used that anyway, so that's just gone. Cryogenic Chamber. Now, this has been changed, where you no longer cast Remorseless Winter, because this talent will actually change it. So let's just show you quickly in the PTR. So it's right here. Replaces Remorseless Winter. Pillar of Frost now summons a Remorseless Winter that lasts 4 seconds longer. Each time Frost Fever or Empower Rune Weapon deals damage, because Empower Rune Weapon now actually does damage, it stores some damage into Remorseless Winter. But right now, it looks like Remorseless Winter is kind of bugged, because it's just doing very, very small damage. So I don't know. Me personally, this is the build that I've been using that I've been testing that's given me the best results so far, and I completely ignore Remorseless Winter. I'm not even casting it. So I'd like to see that change, because Remorseless Winter is such an iconic ability. I want to talk about Empower Rune Weapon as well. So Empower Rune Weapon, completely different spell now. So it no longer gives you runes and it's no longer a buff. It's basically a small attack like this. Sucks a bit of the target's soul, powers your weapon, instantly grants a killing machine proc, and gives you 40 runic power. Now, this is really nice because it's basically just an on-demand spender. It's nice for breath because it just gives you that 40 runic power, and there's some decent play with it. It does increase the fluidity of the spec. I really like it as an ability. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but you don't really care about the damage portion. It's nice that it will actually add stacks onto Reaper's Mark while you're doing it because it's Shadow Frost damage. One of the talents you pick is Frostbound Will. This is a new talent, but you must pick it to get Pillar of Frost. And what this does, consuming Rime, reduces the cooldown of Empowering Weapon by 4 seconds, and you will be consuming Rime a lot. The new playstyle really emphasizes consuming Rime as soon as possible to get your Empower Rune weapons back, because the more Rimes you consume, the more resources you have, the more killing machines you can put out. It's actually a nice playstyle generally, but there's a lot of talents here now that you will definitely pick that will enhance Rime. So things like Northwind's Howling Blast now hits it hits an additional target with maximum effectiveness. Rime increases the damage done by 75%. You might recognise that talent. That's basically improved Rime. Enduring Strength has also received a nerf. There's only 8% strength, and it's got a cap of up to 20 seconds, and that's because they know that you're going to be churning out obliterates all the time. Everfrost, Rime Empowered Howling Blast, deals 50% increased damage to secondary targets. That's good. That's good. Not going to be very good in single target, because obviously you don't care, but in AoE and Mythic Plus, this is really nice. Frigid Executioner, Runic Empowerment has a 20% chance to refund an additional rune. So that is just our talent, or not talent, sorry. That's our actual just spell, just a normal spell. Each runic power that you spend has 1.6% chance. We already talked about this before, to grant you a rune. But I actually really find that these talents, Runic Command, help with your rune regeneration really nicely. That additional 20 runic power and the rune regeneration rate by 50% is super nice. And now Shattered Frost has just been completely removed. So it's been reworked into a different ability, and it's now called Frostbane. So let's go and I'll show you that. So casting Glacial Advance has a chance to make your next Frost Strike cost 40 less runic power and transform it into Frostbane. Start a Frozen Onslaught that strikes twice, unleashing the chilling essence of winter, dealing some damage, some frost damage to all enemies caught within its wake with each strike. Each enemy struck reduces the damage dealt by the next foe by 5%. So on single target, it doesn't do a tremendous amount of damage, but I can imagine this being a really heavy hitter in AoE. So this was just single target, this was just hitting this dummy here. I don't know if it was actually cleaving onto these guys, but it says 4 hits and I cast it 4 times, so I think it didn't. But that's with just one target, and I think if you have lots of targets in this Mythic Plus, it's very decent. It seems that at the moment, the only way I can get it to proc is just by regular Glacial Advance. It's not really procking with the Arctic Assault ones. But I don't know if that's just me just being unlucky when I did actually test it. But yeah, Frostbane, it's got a low chance anyway, but it's quite cool. I think it looks decent, and I'd be interested to see how it fares in Mythic Plus. So some of the other talents have been changed. They're not a lot of like build defining ones. So you have things like Frost Scythe. This is now, you would definitely pick this in AoE. But you also have this talent called Frost Reaper, which directly interacts with just Frost Scythe. And if you don't have Frost Scythe talented, you can't use Frost Reaper. So you have to have those two together, which I don't think makes a lot of sense. But Frost Reaper is quite good. It tethers you to a target and a nearby one when you cast Obliterate. And then your Frost Scythe will sever those and just make them explode essentially on the target itself, not around just the target that it's tethered to. Do some damage to it. It's quite high damage, and it is definitely going to be good in AoE, but you have to keep an eye out on it. It's difficult to track. So a few other notable talent changes. You have Killing Streak. Now this, essentially, if you have 2 stacks of Killer Machine, it will consume both of them. So Obliterate and Frost Scythe consume all Killer Machines to deal 25% increased critical strike damage and grant a bit of haste for 8 seconds. Multiple applications may overlap. I've been able to stack up to like 5 before, and it's quite good. It gives you a lot of haste, but it just means that you're not sitting on procs for ages, and you don't have to keep making sure that you're spamming Obliterate. It will just consume all of them because you'll be generating so many Killer Machine procs, especially if you play dual wield. That's actually a decent change. I like that. And then next up, you've got the change to the Rage of the Frozen Champion position. I think this is good as well. This is now here, and you can take this off and pick something different, but I think this is really realistically going to be a must pick all the time because of how much we cast Rime here. Next up, we have Icy Onslaught. So Frost Strike and Glacial Advance now cause your next Frost Strike and Glacial Advance to deal additional damage but cost a little bit more, 5 more runic power. This effect stacks until the next runic empowerment, so as soon as you can trigger a free rune from spending runic power, then Icy Onslaught will reset itself. It's okay. It's not great because eventually your Frost Strike will be quite expensive, and you'd rather that not be the case. But the bigger the pool that Frost Strike consumes of runic power, the more likely it is that you'll get a rune out of that. So that's all right. That's not too bad. We have the same Remorseless Winter talents you have before: Gathering Storm, Biting Cold. Everfrost has changed a little bit. It still has the Everfrost component, but Rime Empowered Highland Blast deals 50% increased damage to the secondary targets. That's pretty decent. But you still have things like Avalanche, Smothering Offense, Icy Death Torrent. You would actually pick Icy Death Torrent over Frostbane here. Long Winter. But yeah, if you want to play like a Shattering build, that still does exist. You don't have to. You're not forced into Breath. I have better results with Breath, but you're not forced into it. And then the last thing, well, I guess we can go over the last two. Runic Overflow just increases Frost Strike and Glacial Advance damage, and then Frozen Dominion. So the Frostworm Whelps are now baked into Frostworm's Fury. If you pick this, you don't have to aim every time you press Pillar of Frost and make sure you don't pull through a fucking wall. That's not going to be a thing anymore. Thank God. And there has been a small change to Obliteration. There's this new bit to it. Additionally, during Pillar of Frost, Empower Rune Weapon causes your next Obliterate of Frost, so it costs no runes. It's good, but if it costs no runes, it will generate you no runic power. So there's kind of a bit of a caveat there. It's okay. I don't know why that's there. That's kind of weird to me. I don't understand. I guess it's just so that you don't sit on your killing machine for ages. Like, this is your Empower ability. This is the ability that allows you to cast whatever ability you want next. If you don't have any runes, then there's no point it being there. But yeah, not too sure. The hero sets remain. Hero talent remains basically unchanged. Everything pretty much works the same, and you wouldn't really switch off of this build right here. But I think personally, I'm having better synergy with Deathbringer at the moment. I don't really. Yeah, I'm not finding that Rider is very impactful, and it's a bit annoying to have to line it up with Breath of Sindragosa as well. You have to essentially do a rank 2 and then wait and hold breath. So doable, and it works. I mean, you have to also must pick Frostworm's Fury so that you can activate your rider stuff, which I just think it makes everything a little bit clunky. So I have better fun, and I've had a better time with Reaper at the moment. Now let's move on to the tier sets. So casting Reaper's Mark grants 1 stack of Exterminate with 150% first scythe and 125% second scythe effectiveness. That's good, just upfront damage like that. And then the 4 set Reaper's Mark can stack up to 15 additional times and increase your crit by 10% after it explodes. Now that's decent because you can't reset Reaper's Mark anymore. So Reaper's Mark was changed just a little bit where it doesn't reset. I think that's good. However, the tier set, with it being able to stack 15 additional times, it just means Reaper's Mark will do more damage, but you just have to make sure you can actually explode it during Pillar. With Breath of Sindragosa as well, you'll have no issues exploding it very, very quickly. Breath of Sindragosa interacts with the hero talents. Which one is it? Is it Bind? Yeah, Bind in Darkness. Shadow Frost damage applies 2 stacks to Reaper's Mark, 4 stacks when it crits. Breath crits all the time, hits all the time. Yeah, it stacks it very fast. So I think it's a good tier set to have. And then we'll just check on the... Let's switch to Rider. Let's quickly have a look at the Rider tier set as well. So Pillar of Frost now summons Trollbane for 10 seconds. Trollbane's Icy Fury deals 10% increased damage, and his Obliterate does 35%. It's kind of like the Unholy one as well, but just a different minion. Casting Obliterate of Frost Scythe orders Trollbane to cast his Obliterate alongside you. Your Obliterate deals 20% increased damage. So I guess you just have a bit more of a focus on Obliterate here. Just massive Obliterate damage, really. I still prefer the Reaper's one, but I don't know why. There's no real difference here. Like, I don't think you would play any differently because of these sets, but still decent. There's also 2 really decent trinkets you can get as Frost in this season. So you have Araz Ritual Forge, really nice. You just use that at the start of your burst. But as Frost with Breath, a lot of our damage is very upfront, and having this trinket is really nice. 45k strength that decays by 1k every second. You have a massive burst. It's great. And then you have this other trinket here, Astral Antenna. The antenna has a chance to detect and draw ambient arcane energy towards you, granting 6k crit. Just nice to have the additional crit. You still want to be crit mastery with the Breath of Sindragosa build. So these 2 trinkets are really nice, and you can get them from the raid, so it's not too difficult. Now, there is a question that I think everybody's going to be asking. Do I play 2-hand? Do I play 1-hand? So I've tried both of them, and the DPS difference is quite minimal. You're talking between like 5 to 10%. But I find with a build like this on single target, this on single target, you're going to want to be dual wield. I just find that I'm easily stacking up my Shattering Blade so much. It's really decent. And consuming that, it increases your frost strike damage by something like 50%. It's crazy. When you have a 2-hand, it doesn't stack up anywhere near as fast because you don't have the Razor Ice enchant. And even though you have things like Avalanche and you have things like Glacial Advance, which do put Razor Ice on the target, the weapon enchant stacks it way faster. So 2-hand, 1-hand, I guess you just have to wait for the sims and see what builds comes out of those to find out. But I think if I was to be a betting man, I would say playing dual wield is going to be the best bet. Okay, so my opinion on the changes, I think it's really good. I think it definitely addresses some of the challenges that Frost had. So like the on-demand Killing Machine proc, the on-demand Runic Power, really nice with Empower Rune Weapon. I think the breath change is weird. I actually really don't like the Empower spell. I don't like that. I've never liked it. I always just thought the Empower thing was super strange and cringe. So for now, for it to be in breath, that's horrible. I was a breath enjoyer. I really liked the actual playstyle of it. So yeah, that's the biggest downside for me. I think everything else is great. I really like everything else. The caveat is I could just switch to Shattering Frost builds now, but I enjoyed breath. I actually liked breath. So the fact that it's changed, it's like me. I don't know. I think there will be a point where it will gel and it'll be fine. Once you kind of figure out what the opener will be, I think I've kind of got an opener in my mind at the moment that I've been using that makes it a little bit less arse to execute. But that's my only downside, I think, to this build at the moment. The damage is a little bit lackluster, but that's literally just a tuning issue. And then a couple of bugs as well, I think. So that's really easily fixable. But actually, gameplay-wise, I just think that the breath and power spell is a little bit cringe. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. And make sure to subscribe if you want to see more Season 3 Death Knight gameplay. Thank you, everybody. Peace.